Hi guys, today we're going to cover section 2.4, which is the application of linear equations. And we're going to talk about some problem solving strategies and working with some translation and consecutive integer problems and some general application of linear equations. So let's go ahead and take a look on the Word document you can find on Blackboard under week 2. And let's see what we have. So just first thing first, when you open a document, you're going to see some problem solving strategies, and there are 6 steps. So I just want to kind of make sure we go over these steps, so we can have some good idea on how to start, in general. So first thing first, right? The step 1 is always read the problem carefully. Right, I mean, and trust me, right? How many times have you, tried to, do something without an instruction? I mean, I've been there before, right? And or even though when you're reading instructions, sometimes we're skimming the instruction, and and we did not, we missed some fine detail. So same thing here, right? When you're dealing with a story problem, make sure you want to read a question carefully. Okay, and step 2 is the assign label to unknown quantities. So label the unknown, right? And the thing is, right, every question we will usually end up with, they'll give you a question on what you need to find. And this is what I mentioned in class as the WH questions. What, where, when, right? So these are the typical places where you're going to find, what quantity they're asking for. And once you figure out what quantity they're asking for, right, try to use the same letter of the quantity if possible. So for example, I will probably use the letter H for height, right? L for length, W for width, A for area, right? Depending on if I'm talking about area or amount of money. So it just depends, but try to pick the same letter that represents the quantity, so we don't get confused. I know we like to use X and Y and whatnot, but a lot of times is, what's X? I have no idea what X is. But if I look at H, I might think about maybe it's a height or something else. Okay. All right, step 3, a verbal model. So that's basically you're looking at the problem, and then you are, trying to figure out the information, and that's typically the verbal model. And step 4 is turning the English into math, and that's the verbal model to the math equation. Okay, and once you have the English info, this is a verbal model from problem. And step 4 is turn English into math. And step 5 is once you got the equation, you can solve. And the last part, step 6, is make sure you can interpret. So make sure you can explain. A lot of times, some students, right, they can do the math, but they don't understand what does the answer stand for? What does the answer mean? So make sure you can interpret and explain your answers. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and try some of these translations. So I'm just going to read the question, and then I'm going to point out which part we might want to pay attention to. So here we go. In a math class, the number of male students was 6 more than the number of female students. If the variable f represents the number of female students, what's the expression for the number of male students? Okay, so in this case, what we want to pay attention to is this sentence right here. The number of male students was 6 more than the number of female. Okay, and notice, so we read through the problem. That's step 1. Step 2, right? Step 2, assign a variable. Notice this problem actually gave us a variable already. They said female is F. Okay, so we're actually done with step 1 and step 2. Now step 3 is more, right, we're gonna get the English information from the problem. Now when you look at this problem, notice we're not just talking about female, we're also talking about male. So what we could do here is we could actually add on an extra variable for male. So I'm going to say male means M. Okay? So once we completely have our labels all set and we got our information, right? The number male was 6 more than the number female. Now we can actually work on the English to math part. So on step 4. Okay? Now from here, translation, right? Remember the translation sheet? The word was, right? Was or is in math means equals. The number of male, I'm going to use M. Now, 6 more than the number of female. Well, we know the number of female is F, so it's got to be something to do with F. 6 more than, right? More than means add. But the word than makes you switch the order. So in this case, we're going to have F plus 6. Okay? So based on that sentence, we know M equal F plus 6. But the question here is, we're looking at the expression for the number of male students. So we're not looking at this whole thing, because this whole thing is an equation. Notice it has an equal sign. Equate, equal, right? So if we're looking at the expression for men, that means this part right here, the F plus 6 part, that right there is our expression. Okay, expression does not contain the equal sign, right? Expression is basically one side of the equation. Okay? We did not talk about the difference between expression and equation in class, but I figure we're going to talk about it, along the way. So now you know. Okay. All right. Let's look at number 3B. Sorry, 3B. During the local election, the number of women voted exceeded the number of men by 246. Let the variable be the number of women voted in this local election. What is the write the expression for the number of men that voted? So again, it looks like we have W, B, women voted. So number of women voted. But in this case, since we're also talking about men, number of men voted, so why don't we again use M for number of men voted. All right, and from here, notice, right, we got our labels down, so let's go ahead and look at information. The information we're going to look for here is this. Let the, excuse me, wrong one, that's not what I want. The number of women exceeded the men by 246. Okay, so the number of women exceeded the men by 246. So that means there are 246 more women than men. So which means women, the number of women is just whatever men is plus 246. Okay. But be very careful. In this question, they're actually looking for the expression for the number of men. So which means I don't need to know how many women I have. I need to know how many men we have. So in this problem, we actually have to solve for M to get our answer. Okay, because we're looking for how many men. So to figure out this problem, we're going to end up doing here is we're going to minus, so take the W equal M plus 246. We're going to subtract 246 on both sides to solve for M. And if you do that, 246 minus 246 cancel. So on the right-hand side, I'm only left with M. On the left-hand side, I'm left with W minus 246. And that right here, this right here is our expression. Okay. All right. So let's work on the next one. Next one is an actual football game that happened. So during the NFL playoff game between the Ravens and the Bills scored 2 more than 5 times the Ravens. And we're going to let R be Raven score. So which means, in this case, since we're talking about the scores for Buffalo Bills and Ravens, we probably want to need a letter B for Bills score. Now, key information, right? We got the variable down, right? Now let's figure out some information we have. The information here is this. Bills scored 2 more than 5 times the Ravens. So which means the score, the Buffalo Bills score is 2 more than 5 times the Ravens, which means it will be 5R plus 2. Right? Remember, more than means you have to switch orders. Okay. So the expression is right here. The expression for Buffalo Bills score is 5R plus 2. Okay. All right. All right, so now let's go ahead and expand this a little further on the applications. So if you look at applications, the first problem, it says C problem from 3C. If the combined score of the game is 20 points, how many points did each team score? Okay, so we know the expression for Buffalo score is 5R plus 2. However, this time, we also know an additional information. And additional information says combined score is 20, which means when you add their score together, you get 20 points. Okay? Now, notice, in this case, we have 2 variables. B and R. And we also have two equations, 2 information. So if you have 2 variables and 2 equations, this means we can solve. So what I'm going to do is we're going to do a lot of the substitution or plug in. So notice, I have B equal 5R plus 2. This means replace B with 5R plus 2. So when you look at the B plus R equal to 20, then this is exactly where we're gonna go. Anytime I see a B, I'm gonna replace with the 5R plus 2. So plus R still equal 20. And this one's very easy to solve. This is 6R plus 2 is 20. 6R is 18. And the R equal 18 divided by 6, which is 3. So this tells me the Ravens scored 3 points. Now to figure out how many points Buffalo Bills scored, you could just take this, plug into any equation, or you could just say B equal 5 times 3 plus 2, which is 15 plus 2 is 17. So in this game, Buffalo Bills scored 17 points, and the Ravens only scored 3. Okay. Now, second part, Zeke has 15 fewer apps on his phone than Hannah. if the total number of apps on both phones is 29, how many apps on each phone? So again, right, in this case, the question is asking for the number of apps for Hannah and Zeke. So let's make our label. H is number of apps on Hannah's phone. And that means Z is going to be same thing except for Zeke. Okay. And also in this case, right, if the very quick thing, it says the total number of apps is 29. So this means H plus Z is 29. Right, because the total number of apps is 29. And the other information is this. Zeke has 15 fewer apps. On 15 fewer apps than Hannah. So this means Z equal H minus 15. Okay. Now again, two variables, H and Z, two informations, two equations. Let's substitute. I'm going to take Z equal H minus 15 and put it into the other equation. So H plus H minus 15 is 29. This is 2H minus 15 equal 29. This is 2H equal 44, and H is 22. And if H is equal to 22, we can figure out what Z is by plugging it back. Z equal 22 minus 15, which is 7. Okay. Hopefully this helps. All right. Third problem. A rope is 54 inches long, so we drew a picture like this in class. This is 54 inches. And you have a short side and a long side. Right, so in this case, what do we know? We know the short side plus long side has to be 54 because they come from the same rope. And then it says one piece must be 3 times as long as the other, so which means, right, since we have a long piece and a short piece, so which means the long piece is 3 times as long as the short piece. Right, key phrase. One rope is 3 times as long as the other. Okay, so clearly we have a long and short piece. So we can get L equals 3S. And again, right, two equations, two variables, let's substitute. Wherever I see an L, I'm going to put 3S. This is 3S. So now we have S plus 3S equal 54. Combine like terms, this is 4S equal 54. And this is going to be S equal 54 divided by 4, which is 13.5. And if S is 13.5, that means L is just 3 times 13.5, which is 40.5. Okay. All right. And now for the curveball, again we have 120 tips split amongst 3 restaurant servers. We got Angie, Marie, and Gwen. And notice what do we know? We know Angie made 10 more than Marie, so which means Angie is Marie plus 10, right? Because M is how much money they made. Gwen is 25 less than Marie, so which means Gwen is whatever Marie is, we minus 25. And obviously Marie is Marie. So right? And when you add them all together, you get $120. I am going to let you finish this problem. Notice we got some substitution going on in here into the main equation. So plug everything in, you get m plus 10 plus m plus m minus 25 equal to 120, and solve for m. And notice everything else is determined by m. Okay? All right. Now for the consecutive integer problems, I want to help you with the setup. Just remember, consecutive means back to back. So for example, right, consecutive number, for example, will be like 1, 2, right, 4, 5, no, 7, 8. These are consecutive numbers. Okay, and remember the second number is always one more than first. Right, that's why if you look at the examples, right, 2 is always one more than 1, 5 is always one more than 4, 8 is always one more than 7. So which means for our setup, the first number, if we don't know what the first number is, we call it x. The second number is always x plus 1. Because the second number has to be one more than the first one. So that means now let's put this together. The sum of two consecutive integers is 107. The sum means I need to add them together. So in this case, consecutive integers, I got x and x plus 1. So x plus 1 equal 107. Now, solve for x. Okay, so if you want to solve for x, you get 2x plus 1 equal 107, 2x equal 106, divide by 2 on both sides, x equal 53. Now, if x equals 53, which means the second number is 54. Sorry for a long pause. I kind of lost my train of thought. Okay. Now, the second problem, the sum of 3 consecutive raffle tickets. Now, same idea here. If the first number for the raffle tickets, if the first number is x, that means the second number has to be x plus 1 because they're consecutive. And it means the third number has to be x plus 2, right? Because the third number is 2 more than the first one. So the setup will be x plus 1 plus x plus 2 equal 2666031, and this is very much solvable. Okay, all right, so hopefully this will help. Let me know if you got any questions. I will talk to you guys later.